So, what are the various basal cortexes that are present to us? When we see in the maxilla, there are primary cortexes, there are secondary cortexes, and there are accessory cortexes. So, for the beginners, we will only be focusing on the primary cortexes. So, the primary basal cortexes present are the nasal cortical, like we can see here. Okay, so the patient comes to us like this. Suppose there is a edentulous patient. So what will happen is we will raise a full thickness flap, right? And what will happen is we will see this crestal bone. So the crestal bone becomes our first cortical, the first cortex, the first hard bone that we encounter when we open a flap, right? In basal implantology, we will be placing the implants in the basal bone, and we will be seeing that in this demonstration, right? So suppose we start drilling. Okay, we start drilling from this cortex. What will happen is we will enter in the spongy bone. We will hear a drop. Okay, there will be a hard bone, there will be resistance here, then there will be a drop, and then we will enter into the floor of the nasal cavity, right? Like this, we will enter in the floor of this nasal cavity. So this is the secondary cortex. Okay, this is the primary cortex, this is a secondary cortex. Everyone can see that. So the secondary cortexes are the floor of the nasal cavity and the anterior wall of the sinus. There is a maxillary sinus present in this area. Okay, this, when the sinus is pneumatized, we can anchor the implant in the anterior wall of the maxillary sinus. We can anchor the implant in the floor of the maxillary sinus, or we can anchor the implant in the pterygoid bone. When we are treating the distal maxilla, we can place the implant in the pterygoid bone. So these are the primary cortices. Apart from that, we can also use the lateral nasal wall, right? This is the nasal cavity, this is the nasal cavity, and there will be lateral nasal wall that can be approached on the first molar area. What we can do is we can place the implant from here tilted and into the nasal cavity. I think you might be able to appreciate slightly. The implant will be engaging the lateral nasal wall.